Now, policies, regulations, and laws protect liberties and rights, maintaining orders, resolving disputes, and establishing standards for the business concerns and their dealings with government agencies and individuals. Law plays a vital role in regulating business practices in a country. Law is also essential to regulate corporate financing, regulatory compliance, and commerce litigation. Today, we'll be talking more about the important tools in our hands called law and power, which can be used to shape Nigerian business landscape. And to talk to me around this, ahead of the NBA-SBL conference, I have the Nigerian Bar Association section of business law. He's a Dr. Adeoye Adefulu. He's a partner in the law firm with Ojujiri and Adefulu, over 20 years of experience spanning fields of petroleum law and policy, electricity law, and corporate and project finance. I'm also being joined by Barrister Ose Okpeku. He's a partner at the Law Crest, who heads employment law, HR and immigration practice team. I must thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I appreciate you on the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Adefulu, let me start with you. Now, before we go further, now let's examine the business environment in Nigeria. How well have we fared with regards to law, policy, and regulations? Before I talk about what you're doing to help address some of the challenges we face along that space.
Let me thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and your audience about law, policy, and regulation. I think that in general, there's been some improvements, but the environment is challenging because not just because laws are old, because we have quite a number of old laws on our books that do not reflect the continuing business environment. But even the laws on the books, some of the challenges we've had is that, one, they conflict with other laws. Two, sometimes the laws do not reflect the policy. And three, sometimes the regulators who are meant to enforce the law do not enforce it properly. So even where there's been change, even where there have been reforms, even where the law reflects a good working environment, we've had a mismatch, a misalignment between the enforcement, or a misalignment between different regulators, etc. And so the view is that, one, we need to work on a better legal environment, a wholesale reform for the laws that govern the business environment. Secondly, we need to create a better working environment in which the regulators play a role that is very clear. So the regulators know what they're supposed to do, the regulators know how they're supposed to do it, and the regulators do not work in competition with each other, which we've been seeing for quite a while. And that would require, in my view, work at the federal and state levels, and the federal and state level of the local of government working together to make sure that we have a very good working environment, that they don't work in conflict with each other. I hope that answers the question.
Well, indeed, I'll turn to Ose and ask you almost the same question. The Nigerian business environment, a lot of issues around legislation, and we see government and, of course, trying to make moves to make the environment more conducive and, of course, attractive in doing business. Now, let me ask you, what role really do business lawyers play in this?
Thank you, Femi. Interesting point and interesting question you do ask there. I mean, if you think about it, the law is a tool for social engineering and change. And so from that point of view, it's very clear that lawyers have a huge role to play in ensuring that we have the proper and right regulatory and legal atmosphere or framework. So, in practical terms, what the SBL has done over the years is to collaborate with the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, the Nigeria National Assembly, and we'll have a platform called NASBA, with which what we try to do is to look at existing laws or laws that are before the National Assembly and look at practical interventions in terms of reviewing these laws, amendments, and then pushing them forward to ensure that it reflects the reality of today's business environment. And so, doing that, we've created, we have reviewed the rush of bills. I can give you a lot of instances, from the Food Safety Bill to the Employment Law Institutions Bill of last year, Light Assembly. And we had a lot of engagement with key stakeholders in the sector, with NECA, with employees, organizations, and with the National Assembly, so that we have bills which are suited for purpose. Because what we find most times is that we've more or less imported certain legislations contextually and placed them in Nigerian context, and it doesn't work. We have our own peculiar issues, our own peculiar challenges. And so because we are business lawyers, we understand the pain that our clients face. And we are also consumers and end users. So we're in a better position with our legal background to then advocate for changes and provide solutions. Because really, in the real sense of it, our role is to provide practical solutions and ensure that everyone on that value chain, from stakeholders to consumers and clients, are satisfied at the end of the day. And so practically, we've done quite a bit in this space. And I hope that in a nutshell answers your question, Trevi.
All right, then let me go back to Dr. Adeoye. Adeoye, let's now talk about the upcoming 2023 SBL, NBA-SBL conference. Now, you've been having conferences before now, but this time around, you decided to focus on the business landscape. Like I said, I know you've been talking around that too, but specifically, what message do you intend to pass this time around? And the ones you've had before now, how receptive has government been, taking your communique or whatever suggestions come out from important gatherings like this one?
Thanks, Fem. Much appreciated. So the focus of this conference is on the business landscape, on changing the business landscape. And we thought that with the emergence of it's quite important to set an agenda in terms of law, policy, and regulation. What are those things that as business people, lawyers, we support business people. We ourselves are business people. What are those things that we found challenging, that we think that is important to fix? Because if you create a better business environment for us to work with, we believe that there will be much more investment into the country, and that a number of key issues in the economy, infrastructure, and I apologize for calling you Femi whilst your name is Tolu. Please accept my apology.
No problem, Tolu.
But as I was saying,
yeah,
so fixing infrastructure, fixing energy, because there are many challenges ahead of us, looking at artificial intelligence and how those things can affect productivity. And when we are able to discuss these issues and set an agenda, we can then present all of these to the government for them to take a look at in the reform process that they are undertaking. I think that we've had lots of these conversations in the past. This is our 17th annual business law conference. And each of those conferences have had an impact in one way or the other, discussing various elements of reform, some of those things that you are aware of. We worked at our conferences on the Petroleum Industry Bill, as it then was, which is the Petroleum Industry Act. We've worked and provided advice on the Companies and Allied Matters Act. And so the SBL has been an integral partner for government at all levels on discussing business law issues. So we've had, in addition to our conference, we also work all year round with regulators and bringing regulators and business people together to discuss sort of the critical issues. We believe that we have been a voice for good and for development, and we hope that we'll continue in that light in this conference, and we can present a working agenda for this government to follow.
Interesting stuff there. Let me allow Ose also bear his mind on that very important discourse. Ose, what should we be expecting? What kind of speakers should we be looking out for? Because when we are talking law, policy, and regulation, it's important to help attract investment. The president is in France talking to investors at the moment, and nobody will bring in their monies if we don't have the right laws, the right regulations, and policies in place. How would you react to this, and how will this conference support all of these moves being made by government?
I mean, the fact that, Tolu, I also apologize for calling you Femi. I retrace my earlier comments, and I now refer to you as Tolu. So going forward, it will be Tolu. I hope you accept my apologies. Right. The fact that we came up with a team for this conference, being the business landscape, the priorities for law, regulation, and policy, speaks to the fact that we are really thinking ahead, and we realize that to attract investment, we need to have the right business environment. Investors need to understand that there's a standard practical policy in place. They understand that if they try to register a company in 1 day, and we say to them, it will be done in 2 days, they know it will be done in 2 days. They need to have that sense of stability and understanding that the polity is stable, the policies are stable, the policies are not against investment, the policies are proactive, the regulators are there to support businesses, not to witch hunt businesses, or like the doctor said, to be competition to businesses. Now that we're having that conversation, what we've done and what in the finest tradition of SBL will bring some of the best brains, thought leaders, experts in various fields. So everybody we are going to have on that panel, on each panel speaking, is a thought leader in a particular field. The idea is that from these conversations, very, very engaging conversation between thought leaders and experts in various fields, we'll come up with a very robust communique, which will, in a way, be some form of leeway for the government in terms of looking at policies and regulations going forward to support businesses. So, again, I'll make the point to say that this is going to be a collection of some of the best brains in the business, legal, and commercial world. And we're really looking forward to having them speak. And tonight, I hope you'll be around to listen to them as well, so you can help spread the message.
Indeed, I would be around. Let me ask Dr. Adeoye about technology and innovation now. We all know that there is nothing we do in this world. We must adopt or take advantage of technology for us to achieve what we intend to achieve. Is there going to be any focus around technology and innovation also around you at this discussion, at this panel, and all of the discussion and segmented panels you'll be having?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, technology and innovation is critical to enhance productivity, for us to be able to deliver better services to our clients, and even really in general for the nation. And I think one of the advantages that we have for ourselves is we have a young emerging population who are very, very keen on technology and learning technical skills and making the world better through technology. And of course, technology is an important part of our discourse. We have a panel which will be led by one of the chairs of the Technology Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association Section on Business Law. And we'll have a panel which will be discussing various aspects of technology, artificial intelligence, etc., and the impact that it has on the world of work. I think it's really important because we are all sort of at the ground level across the world, really, in terms of understanding this new form of generative AI that is coming into play. And as Nigeria, being on that ground level with everybody, it is important to sort of, scale and try to understand how this will impact our world of work, how we can use the technology that is coming into play, use it positively to develop our economy, to help our people to become more resourceful. And so I am looking forward to that very robust discussion with an amazing panel, and we're going to have talent from companies like Google come and sit in on that discussion as well. So I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Let me go to Ose now and ask you, what rightful regulations do you think, or more regulation do you think Nigeria needs to put in place for us to be able to be at par with our international partners? You have some specifics. What more should we look at? We know a lot is being done, but what more should we look at? Talking about regulation.
Thank you, Chulu. I mean, the important thing is to have regulations and law that are fit for purpose. Right? So we need to have, it's not about making laws, and that's why we're having this conversation. That's why we're sitting down with people to break it down, to drill it down to the bare knuckles, to say, in this particular sector, what kind of laws and regulations do we need to unleash the potentials that this sector has to offer? So it has to be value-driven regulations and legislation that seeks to unleash the potentials of every sector. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. We're not looking for taking a regulation from another place and just transposing it to Nigeria without contest. No, we're looking for regulations. And to tell you the truth, we have regulations, we have laws, but we need regulations and laws which are fit for purpose and which will be implemented. I mean, it's one thing to have some of the best regulations or legislations or policies. Implementation and the unintended consequences of implementation are things we must all look out for, because there's a constant talk and pull in terms of effect of implementation. So if we don't think things through properly and look at legislations or policies that are purpose fit, then we'll have unintended consequences of implementation. I'm sorry, things we are running away from. I hope that answers the question.
So wrapping up, what should be our expectations and, of course, take out at the end of the day? What are you looking at, the projection? Let's wrap up on that. Let me start with Ose, then I wrap up with Dr. Adeoye here.
I mean, we're looking to, at the end of the conference, come up with a policy paper that addresses some of the key areas. Doctor has mentioned infrastructure, has mentioned the power sector, and also looked at things like implementation. So in all this, we want to come up with a document that speaks to these various areas, and then a tracking mechanism where we can actually follow up and say, hold on, we did this, we said we're going to do this. How far are we with this government? And we need to start holding government and everyone accountable. And so what the tracking does for us is to hold ourselves accountable first, and to hold government and all the regulators are accountable for what we've said we will do. Those are one of the key things we need to see come out of this conference.
And from you, Dr. Adefulu, what are you expecting? What are your expectations? Can you highlight some of it?
Thank you, Tolu. We see the government regulators, we see them as key stakeholders and key partners in progress for the development of the Nigerian economy. I think that we have a clear view about where the economy should go. And what I am hoping is that robust discussion we'll be having between the 5th to the 7th of July, that robust discussion will generate ideas that will inspire new policy documents from the government, that will inspire new laws, that will inspire a change in the attitude of regulation and regulators. I am hoping that we will develop, we will work towards the development of a new regulatory philosophy and policy that will ensure that laws are implemented as passed, that will ensure that regulators are clear about what their roles are, and that they will ensure that they inspire confidence in the business environment and grow the economy for Nigeria. That is what I'm looking forward to, Tolu. And also looking forward to seeing you there.
Interesting stuff. Yes, I should be there. So I'll learn more about law and policy, regulation, how it affects our economy. Thank you so much for all you do, educating Nigerians around. There's a section of business law has been doing a lot. I can attest to that. Some of your events. Chairman, NBA-SBL, that's Dr. Adeoye Adefulu. I must thank you so much for your time. Vice Chairman, And of course, he is the chairman of the 17th Annual Business Law Conference. And that's Barrister Ose Okpeko. Thank you so much. Do have a great weekend and have a great event.
Thank you, Cholu. Thank you for having us.